there, Fidget fans. This is Alana with FidgetHaven Reviews, and today I'm reviewing the Titanium Crusader by Czar at Kasfly. The Crusader is one classy looking spinner. Its length is 66 millimeters and it weighs 35 grams on my scale. I was pleasantly surprised by how light it feels in the hand, as I'm partial to lighter spinners. As you can see, it's a bar style spinner and it's decorated with riveted shields on each end which bear across. It has an even matte finish and it's tumbled. There are small cutouts between the bearing and the shields, which maximizes the outward mass. This increases spin times. It contains a hybrid ceramic 688 bearing, which is held in place by a bearing lock. Now, as I mentioned, the Crusader looks incredibly classy. It's the most detailed spinner that I've ever used. The finish is flawless, as is the design. Each shield has 12 raised rivets for a total of 48, which line the raised lip that go around the shield. The face of each shield is convex, and it bears a raised cross. Now the shields are reminiscent of Templar shields, which is where I assume the name Crusader comes from. Now while the level of detail is absolutely phenomenal, it does have its drawbacks. I find that the rivets and the crosses are fairly sharp, and that after a while I can experience a little bit of finger soreness and sensitivity. Now my recommendation for this spinner is to flick it up or flick it down from the side, as pulling from the face will rub your finger against the rivets and the cross, and that can lead to soreness over time. The buttons on the Crusader have the same tumbled finish as the rest of the spinner. They're nicely concave and feel really comfortable to hold. One of the buttons has their logo machined onto it, but it's barely noticeable to the touch. The buttons are threaded and they're very easy to remove and put back on. I have to say that I love the way that the buttons and the bearing housing are designed. The housing has a raised lip which goes around it, which allows the bearing to sit nice and deep within it. When the buttons are screwed back on, it completely encases the bearing housing, which seals it off, preventing dirt or dust from getting inside. I'd love to see more makers utilize a similar method because it does minimize the amount of cleaning that needs to be done. I usually clean, or rather do deep cleaning of my spinners once a week, but I admit that I haven't had to clean this at all since its initial cleaning, and less cleaning makes me very happy. I should also mention that the buttons are tall enough that if you'd like to do table spins, you can. The Crusader contains a hybrid ceramic 688 bearing, and it's very easily removable for maintenance or replacement. The housing contains a bearing lock system, and the COA that comes with it is the key. I'm sure you can see the two little prongs sticking out from the bottom, and they happen to line up just perfectly with the holes in the bearing lock. You insert them and turn to loosen, and then what I do is I use my fingers to remove it the rest of the way because I just find it more comfortable. Once the bearing lock is off, you can pop the bearing out just like so to clean or replace it if necessary. Putting it back together is just as simple. You pop it back in. I would make sure that it sits flush because otherwise you either won't be able to close it or you'll have very severely negatively impacted spin times. Once the bearing lock is on, I tighten it the rest of the way with the key, and then I pop the buttons back on like so. And there you go, it's all back together. Now the spin feels smooth, but just like with any other bar spinner, it does suffer from vibrations when turning from horizontal to vertical. The cutouts between the shields and the bearing do minimize the effect, but it's still noticeable and it will decrease your spin time and the speed. I'm sure you can hear that the Crusader isn't silent. The bearing itself isn't particularly loud, but the metal has a sing to it. I can't speak for the bronze version as I haven't had the pleasure of trying it, but titanium is known for the song that it has. As far as spin times go, I don't feel that this is a particularly long spinner, and I prefer it for fidgeting over spin times. I've been able to get spin times of approximately 1 minute and 45 seconds, though I do assume that they will increase once the bearing is broken in. I find that it's more than adequate for fidgeting if that's what you're looking for, though it is still okay in the spin time category. I don't usually talk about packaging, but I feel like it's necessary here. The packaging has nearly as much thought put into it as the spinner itself does. The spinner arrived in this round container made of aluminum. was honestly shocked to find out that it's aluminum, as it's surprisingly hefty. The container without the spinner weighed in at 208 grams on my scale. The spinner is held securely in place by a black velveteen insert that's molded to hug it. It's covered by another removable black velveteen insert, and that holds the COA tag. In case you're not sure what COA stands for, it's Certificate of Authentication. The COA contains, let's see if I can get it to focus, all of the info about the spinner itself. As I mentioned earlier, it also has two little prongs on the bottom, which act as a key for the bearing lock. Now, everything about the packaging is crazy classy. While people often lose their spinner tins, I do think that this is one that you're going to proudly put on display. Overall, I have mixed feelings about this spinner. I'm truly impressed with the level of detail, both regarding the spinner itself and the packaging. I strongly appreciate the way that the bearing is encased and protected. I don't like the amount of hot spots that it has, and I do feel like it detracts from the overall quality. The spin feels smooth, but it doesn't have the type of vibration feedback that I personally look for in a spinner. However, for some people, they might find that to be a plus. The musicality of the spinner is pleasant, and it isn't specifically loud when fidgeting, but it does get loud when you give it a hard flick. It makes for a good concentration spinner. I do have small hands, and this is likely the absolute longest length I would ever go for a spinner. Just know that if you have small hands, it will sometimes hit your fingers when spinning. Unfortunately, as a consumer, I do find that this spinner is overpriced. I know that a lot of work and thought and effort went into designing it. I'm truly unaware of the amount of time that it takes to make each of them, but as far as what the product in hand feels like, I feel like it's too expensive. I think that it would be great if the maker would also offer the spinner that comes without the packaging, because I know that that would cut down on cost. I understand that the value of art is subjective, but as a tool, that's my conclusion. I know many people would truly enjoy this spinner and overlook the hot spots and the high price, but I feel like for me, this isn't the right spinner. Again, this is the titanium Crusader by Kasfly. I am Alana from FidgetHaven Reviews, and if you have any questions at all, please feel free to post them in the comments section below. I'll make sure to include a link to both the Kasfly pre-order page and the Instagram page for them, and I'm also going to provide a link to my written review in the description below. If you'd like notifications on future reviews, please make sure to hit the subscribe button. I really appreciate you watching this and hope that it was helpful for you. Thanks so much, and I hope you have a great day.